Welcome, everybody, to another exciting episode of HomeKit Insider. You've got me, your host, as always, and joining me this week, as I mentioned in last week's episode, I have Cole Ashman joining me, who is the founder and CEO of Pila. I don't know if it's Pila Energy or just Pila, but we're going to talk smart home power integrations, stuff like that, in this episode. Cole, thank you for joining.
It is great to be here, Andrew. Thank you for having me.
Where are you based? I know Pacific time, but that does not narrow it down very much.
San Francisco.
Nice.
Building right here in Silicon Valley.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, I'm very excited to ask you a lot of questions because Pila is very different than I feel like a lot of the power stations that I have looked at and have literally sitting in the house. So yeah, we're going to talk about that matter stuff to do with it, all sorts of things, but we'll get back to that in the latter half of the episode. Let's start as usual and run through the news. Do you have any pets?
I don't currently,
No,
but I grew up
petless.
I grew up in a pet crazy household. So we had, at any given time, 5 dogs, 5 cats, chickens, ducks, and did not grow up on a farm. Lived in uptown New Orleans, but a family of animal lovers. So
Okay, well, sounds pretty much where we are. As most of the audience knows, we have 3 dogs right now, 3 cats. We are up to 17 chickens, which is maybe a little problematic at this point. But
more than enough
and we
eggs.
have a few bunnies. Yeah, it is a lot. And wait until some of them are babies and they haven't even started laying yet. So I'm gonna need to start investing in some additional fridge space here. But let's talk about a litter robot is why we're talking about pets, because Whisker has announced I don't know if this counts as their 5th generation, but the Litter Robot 5 is here and has a bunch of cool stuff with it. To me, Cole, like robotic vacuum cleaners and litter boxes are very similar because if you go with like any of the cheaper ones, they are garbage and make your life worse than when you didn't have them. Robotic vacuum cleaners that are cheap, they never seem to work well. And I have tested like 2 or 3 cat litter boxes that have been absolute garbage. But everyone always talks about like Whisker and the litter robot is just like the GOAT of cat smart litter boxes. So these all look very cool. I didn't even know you could put some of this tech, I guess, into a litter box, but Whisker has done it. Currently, they have the Litter Robot 4, which they are discounting until there's a date here, 12/13. So December 13th, they are discounting Litter Robot 4 down to $649. So that's going to stay, I guess, in the lineup. But then they have 3 new models that are joining. They have the Litter Robot Evo on the low end. Then they have the Litter Robot 5 and the Litter Robot 5 Pro. If we're looking at, to kind of section them out, because there is a breakdown of features that are a little bit confusing, and it kind of depends on if you're crazy like you were growing up or we are, and you have a lot of cats, or you have...
I was going to say, I've scooped a lot of kitty boxes in my day, so I actually feel equipped to comment on this.
Okay, perfect. So we've got the Evo, which is $599. That supports like I think 1 to 2 cats, and it supports 3 to 19 pounds in capacity, so smaller cats. And it does have like the scale built in, but a little bit more of a kind of a cheaper version. Probably wouldn't work for either of us in our situations right now. Then we move up to the Litter Robot 4, which adds on their OmniSense capabilities, their night lights, their litter level sensing, and waste. No, that's it. Those 3 features are added with the 4. We get into the 5, which is $799. That's coming out there on the 25th, so it should be out by the time everyone's listening. And that includes waste type routine monitoring and enhanced odor control, which is again pretty fancy. I mean, it can tell if it's a number 1 or number 2 in the litter box.
Pretty impressive. I mean, I think, these are the kind of insights where folks who maybe don't have pets are like, why would you ever want to know that? But, understanding your pet's routines, and I think this would be really interesting for when folks travel, right? So it's like the number one thing people worry about when they leave home is, is everything normal at home? Are the pets happy? Are they like in their normal routine? So underrated use case there.
For sure. I mean, that think of how popular something like the pretty litter is that changes color if your cat is having problems. So people are clearly interested in monitoring that type of thing and being able to kind of know if there's something going on, like if they're peeing a whole lot or not enough, or like whatever it happens to be. I think that's pretty helpful, especially for a cat, because you don't see them. It's not like a dog where you have to let them out or walk them. They're living their own lives, like they're doing their whole thing,
Yep.
like irrespective of you. Okay, so if you go all the way up to the Litter Robot 5 Pro, $899, has the same capacity as the Litter Robot 5. Both are rated for 2 to 30 pounds, extra large cats, and I think you can do probably, yeah, 5 cats with both of those models. But the difference on the 5 Pro is they also have the AI powered dual camera system, and it supports their pet tags, so it'll know better which cat is using the litter box. I mean, if you have 5 of them, if any of them look similar, those pet tags are like able to determine which pet is actually in there, give you a better understanding of like what each cat is doing individually. So very cool. The new ones also all have like these interchangeable faceplates that are coming soon, so you can customize the style, and they have a nice little LCD display at the top to give you like more insights, updates, and easier onboarding. But these all look really pretty impressive. I mean, you haven't had cats in a while, but would you use a litter box like this?
Yeah, it'd be a jump from the analog. Even calling this a box is a stretch, right? It looks like some sort of teleportation device, but I see the value, and I actually have friends that have the product and they like it. So
Well, that's good to
if
know.
I had the space for it, and if I had a cat, yeah, sure.
I do. I love our cats. I love how they can just do everything on their own, and being able to help monitor that is great. It goes along with like a smart pet feeder to go along with it. Real quick, I want to thank our sponsor for the episode, Zapier. This is one of those products that makes me wish I had my old jobs. Not really, because I love doing what I do, talking about the smart home, talking about tech and Apple and everything like that. But in my prior lives, I worked doing digital marketing and training and customer support and all these things that I was really passionate about. And tools like Zapier are incredible, and I wish that I had them back then to make the experience for customers, employees, everyone else so much better. So Zapier has been around for a while. I actually remember using it to connect things together back then. Like literally could use these APIs to connect these different tools together and make them even more useful. But now Zapier is employing AI to take things to the next level. I started using AI, of course, through my workflow, whether it is generating show notes and descriptions, for using it to proofread things, whether it is to give me a bunch of alts for video titles, all sorts of things that AI can do in my current workflow. But seeing some of the stuff that Zapier is enabling is crazy. And I love just how easy some of this stuff is to do. It's amazing when you can take these different tools and bring them together with Zapier in the middle and using AI. It's able to use AI and not just talk about it, right? You're not just saying, hey, you should be using AI in your workflow. This is actually doing something with it, whether you're using like AI powered workflows, you're creating autonomous agents or customer chatbots. There's so much that you can do with AI, and Zapier orchestrating the entire thing. You're able to connect top AI models like ChatGPT and Claude into the tools that your team is already using. So you can add AI exactly where you need it, not just kind of frills and everything like that. No hype, just results. I think that is incredibly cool. So I was looking through their website at some of the different things that you can connect together with the different solutions that they have and using these agents, and it is incredibly neat. You can take it using like Gmail and have daily market and competitive briefings then delivered into like an RSS feed or into a Slack channel. You can auto post reoccurring team meeting notes into Slack channels. You can take different mentions that it finds of your brand online and then do things with it. You can create your own AI chatbot. You can literally feed it like help docs and help create your own bot that can answer questions for customers. You can answer tickets and enrich leads and sell smarter. There's no limit to what you can do when you use Zapier and AI to connect everything together. Teams have already automated over 300 million AI tasks using Zapier. Ready to join them? Get started for free by visiting zapier.com/HomeKit. That is zapier.com/HomeKit. Okay, man, I don't know if you happen to see this in the news this week, but it got picked up by a few major outlets, and that is that Kohler has launched a smart toilet camera, which seems like we've reached a new level of smart home products. This is the Dekoda, Dekoda health tracker. It's a camera that points into your toilet and provides insights into your hydration and gut health. There's the sensor itself, a magnetic charging pad, a wall-mounted remote. Up for pre-order now for only $5.99 with shipping starting on the 21st of October.
Yeah,
Launching first with iOS. This is something.
Feels like the next iteration, of health tracking. There's obviously all the wearables that have been around forever, but I do think that this notion of ambient intelligence for health and safety monitoring is about to have a moment. And it's interesting that this is where we're kind of seeing it, blow up. But yeah, absolutely, gut health is incredibly important.
I think it's this weird, because we've seen like smart toilet trackers before. Withings has, I think they call it like the U-scan that goes in your toilet bowl, and it's more of like a sensor that can read your urine and then can give you results back. And they have different ones that you can put in that'll read different things, whether it's like hormone levels or general health, things like that. But it gets real weird when there's like a camera involved here when we're talking about privacy. Yeah. And in the bathroom is just, I think with a lot of like the smart home stuff in general, we're getting to the point like, what can we do without a camera, and what can we do? What do we have to have a camera to do? Because there's like the motion aware, like motion sensing that they're doing with like Wi-Fi routers that can even detect if somebody falls.
Sure. Yeah.
But then there's so much that you can also do with a camera. It would be even more accurate at that level. But where's the line that people are going to draw in terms of where they're going to put cameras? So
it is probably the most invasive place you could imagine putting a camera. But I'm looking at it now. It is a nice product design, and the camera appears to be very singularly pointed down into the toilet bowl. So I can only assume that the field of view is quite limited, as it should be.
Yeah, it's very interesting to say the least. You have to have a Kohler Health membership, which is $6.99 a month or $70 a year, which can support multiple or single user, and then $12.99 per month or $130 for a year. That'll go up to 5 users in the household, and they have a little fingerprint sensor to detect who is using the toilet at that time. But they say it'll help with nutrition absorption, health tips, like general health tips, can notice if there's blood in the bowl at all, hydration, all sorts of things. So I don't know. I'm so torn about this because I love taking control of your own health, but also it just gets a little weird with the camera.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It feels like there's an anchor customer there somewhere, that may need to be paying attention to that kind of stuff anyway. Maybe they have some pre-existing health condition. Maybe it makes their life a little easier. That I can reason about way better than, the average person wanting to invite a camera into their toilet bowl. But, I guess we'll watch this space and see what happens in a couple of years.
Yeah, I'm sure they won't be the first to be doing this, especially if it proves successful for them in any way. Real quick, let's give a shout out to Shopify. Shopify is the platform you need to scale your business, whether you are starting out or whether you are already very successful. Congrats to you, by the way. Shopify is that platform. I love it for people who are starting out a business and don't know what to do, where to go. Like, you have your idea for a product. You got that down. That is like the biggest part of like starting your business. But what do you do after that? Whether you're selling online, selling in person, you need help. Shopify can help you make a website in literally just minutes. From there, it can help you by figuring out things that you don't necessarily know that aren't in your wheelhouse, like the shipping or taxes or all sorts of things like that. It can handle all of that, return processes, whatever it has to be. On top of that, as you get bigger, start adding in more features to make it more powerful for you. Whether you're doing like ship to store features, whether you are doing like shared inventory management stuff, adding plugins to offer like package protection for shipped items so you don't have to worry about so much stuff. It also has things like fraud protection, other things that you can build in to make your platform more robust, reliable, secure, and successful. There are so many big brands that are using Shopify. Allbirds, Rothy's, Brooklinens are some of the big ones that I talk about on the show many times, but I also love that in the tech space, nearly all of the brands that I can think of are using Shopify. Moment, Nomad, 12 South, those are a few of the ones that I always think of in the tech space that are all using Shopify. And that just happens to be, by chance that I even knew that. But I recognize that as soon as I get to the checkout process on those websites, I'm like, hey, this is a Shopify site. Because each site is unique and tailored to that business. But then when you get to the checkout, it is a recognizable checkout that is still branded, but it gives you a little bit of recognition and peace of mind because you know that you are checking out through Shopify. So you, as a consumer, are protected. Like, I know that it is safe to put my information in there, and should anything that goes wrong, Shopify will have my back. You can immediately check out just with Shop Pay. It's so cool. Like, I go through the checkout and all of a sudden I get a text message. It's got a code. It can autofill and I can check out in like 2 seconds. It's amazingly fast. But if you don't want to use that, you got many other options such as Apple Pay, Google Pay. Just enter your credit card information. Then your order kicked over to the Shop app, which is really handy to track all of your orders. And then those orders can even be viewed inside of the Apple Wallet app. Super cool tie-in for Apple users as well. The Shop app can use AI in multiple ways to help give you suggestions on other cool brands and stores to check out. There's a bunch of other ones. It's always my tip going into the holidays on finding other cool brands and products to get gifts for other people. AI is also used on the Shopify site to help turn your browsers into buyers. So just another great benefit there through Shopify. So turn your big business idea into with Shopify on your side. Sign up for a $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/HomeKit. That's all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/HomeKit. Shopify.com/HomeKit. We didn't get a new Apple TV this week, which is disappointing. But we have a little bit of streaming news, which was not great. Walmart has their own stream. Is it ONN? Like ONN, I think is like the
ONN,
Walmart brand. Yeah. Well, they have like a little streaming stick box situation, like a Roku Fire Stick situation, something like that. So I guess what happened was they were pushing out firmware updates and they were doing them in the background without like user control or anything, which is common, right? That happens all the time. I'm sure you guys have, updates that you roll out to your, energy devices and everything. But the problem here was they ended up bricking a large number of devices. And then they made it a whole time to get people to actually to be able to replace their devices. They required them to be purchased in like the last year. Some people were shipping them out to China to have them replaced or repaired, at which point it could take like months to try to get your device working again. For something that is incredibly cheap compared to an Apple TV, it's insane, but
not a great look. And it's happening more and more. I feel like every week we wake up and there's another headline. And sometimes it's, the gadgets, the smart TV stuff, but, it's also the EV chargers and, building lighting systems. And I think we need to reckon with this, as an industry. And we feel really strongly about local control. And, you have, the reality is you have to build for this out of the gate. Otherwise, if you're doing all these updates as an afterthought and being, cavalier about it, I don't know if that was the case here, but there really is an art and a practice to doing this well. And, for us, like we borrowing great practices from Tesla and, elsewhere where the team comes from, like you do have to really, really take this kind of thing seriously. And, can't say much about the ONN team, but it's a shame for those customers.
Yeah, I think it's one of those, it's almost, not to like say it in like a bad way, but it's like you get what you pay for situation. And there's a reason people buy like, oh, I'm just going to get this cheap $40 streaming stick instead of an Apple TV because those are $100. But then you end up in unfortunately situations like this, and then just gives you way more hassle than getting the premium product to begin with. So,
Buy it right or buy it twice, something like that, right?
right, the number of, I think of just going back through college, the number of friends that I had that would literally through college had 2 or 3 PCs in this like the span of their 4 to 5 college year career, versus me, like I had a MacBook Pro that made it 5 years before I needed anything else, and it was
Yeah.
still running. It was still running smooth. I sold it and made money and used that to get a new one at that point. So like I feel like this was justified, even though my laptop was more expensive. It, I didn't have to get another one for a long time. But
Yeah, and I mean, of course, something Apple takes really seriously, and no one does this perfectly. It's a hard thing to do perfectly, but it does take real effort. And I have a lot of respect for the folks at Apple that make this a priority and do their best to keep the legacy devices up at par with the newer stuff. And having helped build products like that, I know that's not easy. Yeah.
did you see? I didn't have this in our show notes. Did you see the stuff about the smart bed? Like even my dad was like talking about that,
Was
where
this
they
the
were
AWS outage? Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
during, because they were all cloud reliant, and then AWS went down, and then smart beds are folding and all sorts of stuff. People couldn't control them in the middle of the night, all sorts of things. I guess they rolled out a software update that enabled some new like offline mode situation there, but that was also a learning experience when it comes to server reliance, local controls, and pushing out software updates.
Yep. I hope we get into that in more detail later on because we have some strong thoughts about that. And, the lead in would be if you're building infrastructure, and energy products very much are, that kind of good enough mindset that may find its way into some IoT type devices. Good enough isn't good enough. And yeah, excited to get into that a little bit more.
Nice. Let's pivot. Let's talk about thermostats. This brand Lux, Lux, has 2 new thermostats. So there's the TQX and the TQ1. Both of these are Matter-enabled thermostats. They have things like automatic sensing and can learn how your household behaves to adjust heating and cooling appropriately. Reminds me of like early Nest kind of messaging. The TQX, I believe that's the higher end model, pairs with the sensors to detect temperature variations, occupancy patterns, all of that to optimize your heating and cooling, reduce wasted energy, all of that. It basically looks like a rounded square. Everyone will see it as the cover art for this chapter if you're listening to the podcast. And then the TQX has that glass front, black body, 1 remote sensor included, priced at $180. Then there's the TQ1 smart thermostat, comes in black and white for $95 a piece. Does not include like the extra sensor and like some of those learning capabilities, but otherwise fairly similar. The one question I have about these, because I have not seen anything use them yet, is I wonder if these will support Apple's new Matter-enabled thermostat mode that'll use like the AI to start learning those patterns and adjusting things for you. I even was looking on Reddit, and there's people who, because I don't have a Matter thermostat, I have an Ecobee, which is exclusively HomeKit, and the Ecobee doesn't work with it, and I haven't seen anyone actually enable that feature yet, which was supposed to be maybe in iOS 26. So maybe Apple is still kind of working on that, but there's another Matter-enabled thermostat out there. They look pretty decent. I think they look
I'd
nice.
say nice industrial design. It looks like they have some install pictures with the same kind of base plate, install that Nest really pioneered, which people love. And yeah, it seems like they're leaning in full bore on the Matter side of things. One of the headlines on the page here is no extra apps accounts or lock-ins. I think they know their audience.
Right, which is very nice. There's no, like, you don't have to get a Lux subscription to go along with it. You can just get the thermostat, use it with Matter directly, Apple Home, Samsung, Amazon, Google, all that stuff, which is really handy. Well, they're available now. If anyone wants to pick one up, looking for a Matter-enabled thermostat, with the links in the show notes. It's cool that we're talking about Pila Energy in this episode because one of the things that I like about Pila is it allows you to kind of take control of your home. It's really easy to do, plug and play, and then you're taking control of your home power. You are protected, you are learning more, there's insights, there's all this value that is applied to it, and they're doing such a great job at it. And that's how I feel about Function. One of the reasons that I chose it is because it allows you to take control of your own health. You're not waiting for somebody else to tell you what is going on and trying to make doctor's appointments and lab appointments and all of these things with different people and worrying about insurance and all that stuff. It gets complicated and it takes time. The amount of time that my wife and I have spent fighting through the healthcare system for everything from my diabetes to Harrison's glaucoma and whatever else is going on has been a pain. Function takes away that pain. It just makes it easy to take control of your own health and give you the knowledge and power to do something about it. So you literally sign up, really easy to do. Within a day, I already had my lab appointment scheduled and I walked in that morning, got my blood drawn, done, go for a second follow-up after that, and I got everything done. Within a couple days, I started seeing my results come into the Function app. There's like over 100 different biomarkers that Function Health will monitor for and then gives you those results in just plain English, right? It gives you like an actual breakdown of what that means. So it doesn't give you just a number that you're supposed to then know and then like Google or something. It'll tell you where like the norm is, and not only is like, okay, yours is a little high, you probably don't have to worry, and this is kind of what it means, this is what it could impact, this is why you could be feeling like this. Just like very plain English breakdowns of what all these different things actually mean. And then when all of your stuff is fully back in the app, like all of your tests are done, you'll get a doctor's synopsis of your health, and they bring everything together into this full picture view of you and your health. They can also give you like your bio age compared to your real world age. If you're doing well, if you need to change things, whatever it happens to be. And I love that they're not trying to sell you like supplements or something, because I feel like that gets a little weird where they're like, oh, you definitely have this deficiency, you should buy our medicine to fix it. No, Function just gives you the data and the information, lets you see it for yourself, and then you can make those changes, whether it's changes to your diet, whether it is a different supplement that you want to add, or whether it is going to see your actual doctor to bring up a concern that Function has surfaced for you. It's very, very cool to see all this play out. And if you do it over time, you get another test done in 6 months, you can actually see yourself improving. I did this and I love to be able to actually see how I feel better after changing some of these supplements. I had a different multivitamin that I switched to fix a couple of the deficiencies that I actually found because of Function. I love it. It is really cool to see this data. It's amazing to see this whole overview of my health through their dashboards. They've done an amazing job on it. You should try it out if you have the opportunity. You can learn more and join using my link. Function is a near 360 view to see what's happening in your body, and my first 1,000 listeners get a $100 credit towards their membership. Visit www.functionhealth.com/HomeKit or use gift code HomeKit100 at sign up to own your health. Let's talk about what you're really here for. Let's talk about Pila. So, starting out high level, tell us about you, Cole. Where you got here, what your background is, and what makes Pila a little bit different. What do you guys do?
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about home batteries, just to hit the punchline right away. But I'll briefly introduce myself. I'm Cole Ashman. I'm the founder and the CEO of Pila. We got started about a year and a half ago building what we think is the next generation of battery and energy control system for homes and buildings. And like this idea really was born out of experience. So myself and the team have spent the better part of the last decade building some really cool home energy products. I was at Tesla working on the Powerwall, which is of course the big garage home battery system, pairs with solar, brings backup power and energy management to your home. And then I went on to lead product at a company called Span, who pioneered this smart electrical panel concept, basically turning that gray fuse box in your garage or pantry into a router for power so that you can monitor and orchestrate where every electron is flowing. unlock more capacity in your house to add things like EV charging, make the battery that you have smarter, more aware in an outage, all that good stuff. And I love these products, but they've been slow to scale. And having spent time working on that deployment, story for them, a couple of things have become really clear. The product that's built for premium install that requires an electrical permit and rewiring in many cases is very expensive. So for a Powerwall, while it's a great product, it starts at $20,000 typically installed. And it's often a weeks or months long process to go through permitting and custom design for your home. On the other side of things, you've got outages increasing, millions of people facing power outages due to extreme weather and aging infrastructure, and we're just looking to break down barriers to bring a more accessible battery solution into the world. So what it is, actually, I have one here sitting behind me, is a plug-and-play battery system that anyone can set up themselves, plugs into a standard wall outlet, but delivers that full backup plus energy management experience. This isn't a camping battery that you recharge and keep in your garage so much as it's a fixed device that learns your appliance patterns, keeps an eye out, provides backup power whether you're home or away, and then really interestingly scales across your home. So you may put one in your kitchen above your fridge, right? That's an important thing to back up. One in your office, work from home, Wi-Fi, one in the den, maybe one with the sump pump or the aquarium, you name it. We all have different kind of needs when it comes to power. All of these self-assemble into basically one virtual big battery. And that allows you to do a lot for your bills and painting a pretty cool picture of home energy and automating the usage throughout your home. So a lot of things in one, but at the end of the day, it's a battery designed for every home and business.
For the people who are not looking at the video version, you will see like the device as like the chapter art, but it looks really sleek. Like it's like flat and thin versus kind of like you said, Cole, like a camping battery with handles on the top that you would move around. It's very slim and thin. It reminds me of almost like a modern looking cable box sitting on top of your fridge. Like a lot wider than that, but it's very sleek and modern looking.
Yeah.
How does it work with things like solar? Does it have any solar inputs or anything? Is it just pulling straight from grid? What are your options there?
Yeah, there's a bunch of different options. You can connect solar right to it to recharge. You can also pair it with your solar system. Let's say you got solar, 3 years ago and didn't invest in the expensive garage battery. Now you're getting hit with outages. We have a lot of customers coming to us for that use case because it can charge up from those free electrons that you're producing on your roof. And when the grid is up and you're not in a power outage, you can prioritize storing those, at night, and then sending those to the appliances in your home, which is a big bill saver.
So one of the things that's frustrating for me, we have power outages constantly. We were just out for another half a day, like a week or so ago. And our biggest worry is that we are in the country enough that we don't have city water. So we have like a well and a well pump.
Yeah, well pump. Mm-hmm.
But it's like the larger, like the 240 volt plug, and every single one, unless it's like going into my actual panel, it doesn't. So nothing will support my water pump. So I don't know can this help at all with things like that, or do I still have to find something to make sure we have water in the case of an outage?
Yeah, if you're not interested in changing your water pump to a 120, our product is not going to power it for you today. And that's really, with these large loads, that is the point at which you call an electrician, right? Because you're touching your panel. At least you should. You should permit it. You don't have to. There's other products out there.
Just general advice. Maybe call a professional.
Where we've started, is what we have heard from folks for years and years. Things like fridge, Wi-Fi, window air condition, recharging devices to stay connected is kind of the entry point that a lot of folks look for in the backup category. And if it can be automatic, meaning you don't have to haul this thing out of the garage and run an extension cord, because you've set it up once and it's just ready to go, then all the better. Now, I would love to divulge all of the next generation products that we're working on, but the best I can say is stay tuned on some of those larger devices in your home too. There's lots more things that we're excited to enable in battery back.
Okay, I love that. We'll have to come back here in the future. We'll chat again. Um, in the meantime, let's talk about how you see like the power space and the smart home space kind of converging, because this is happening on multiple fronts. Like prior to Matter, like I have like the Sense stuff in our wall panel, so that uses, like you said, monitors like the electrical usage to detect
Yep.
when appliances are coming on, things like that. And it can do stuff now, like tell me when my microwave is being used or when the washer and dryer are running or finished, things like that. And then you can actually get some compatible smart plugs that can report back to give you more kind of granularity, because you essentially have to learn which devices are which as you use them, which has been a little hit or miss. It kind of like tries to detect like
Yes.
the profile of them and figure that out. So it's getting there, but that was, back then. I feel like where we kind of should be is where everything should be able to talk together on like that one standard, and Matter has started to do that a little bit. Like they added some power monitoring, and they've added a bunch of different categories, including, battery backups and all of that, because I want to be able to like monitor exactly how much like every device in my house is using, to know if I have things that are eating up power that I don't even realize it, as well as being able to kind of control and monitor and manage that stuff in the case of an outage. So again, going back to that question of like how do you see like the smart home world and power kind of coming together here?
Yeah, well, I love that in that list you said control, monitor, manage. Control is first, right? So these metering products are great, but most people don't have the time, to really go through and watch things day to day. So to the extent that we can automate, that's even better. But like, let's zoom all the way out. Like, why do we even care about the energy side of the equation here? Well, if power goes out, that's not good, right? That's the kind of, oh crap moment where your stomach sinks and you start worrying about everything that's in your home that was just running and now it's not. So first goal is, keep it running. And batteries are a great solution for this, right? They're quiet, they're now lower cost and safer than ever. And, we've built our platform around the battery for that reason. Okay, now power's on. What's most interesting next? I would argue it's optimizing it, right? In a world where power bills are going up, the stat that astounds me is 1 in 6 Americans are behind on their utility bills. And like a lot of speculation around what's driving that, data centers and, aging grid. And I think a piece of all of those are true. But for products that are in the home, their greatest, value is that they can actually work for you in the background to help shift things around. In a lot of states now, power prices vary throughout the day. If you've got solar, again, that's free electricity you're producing at home. So how are you routing that intelligently, without having to be an electrical engineer and like configure this stuff in some crazy way? And I think that's where, bringing this infrastructure kind of battery, solar kind of capabilities together with the simplicity of platforms building on Matter and, the HomeKit type of ecosystems, the Home Assistant type ecosystems. That's where we really need to kind of force the convergence, because right now it's difficult and cumbersome to get that power reliability, and for most folks, actually delivering on that kind of savings proposition is pretty complex and requires a lot of behavior change. And we see our solution as a really important kind of base layer here: the power, the control, the local compute, and the tethers into all these other points in the home, whether it's heating and cooling, your solar system, EV, or your utility grid.
What I think is interesting is like I feel like up until kind of now, batteries have always been pitched as like your emergency kind of backup thing. It's like you're going to take them, into the garage, into the yard, camping, whatever, use them for that, or you're going to have them sitting around in your house, again, like you said, in the garage, waiting for a power outage, and then you haul it inside and plug your fridge in. Where do you see this? Do you see this as like an emergency product? Do you see it as like a monitoring and like a savings product? Because there hasn't been a lot that's really like Pila's battery packs? Where do you see these exactly fitting? What's your kind of like general pitch for someone who is looking at them?
Yeah, I mean the answer is yes, right? It's a number of those things, but you know, the reason that most people get excited about a battery in their home is self-sufficiency and energy independence. And I think that's the day zero value that is driving adoption today. You know, and of course you could get that with a standby generator or a, portable battery system, and those have some pros, but I think the cons are they don't really do anything for you the rest of the year. And in the case of a generator, you've got to maintain it or pay someone to maintain it. So while backup might be a really key entry point for a lot of folks, I think for just as many folks, it's this idea of modernizing their home and the energy system in their home to save money or to just get a better sense and control what's going on. And the cool thing with the battery is, right, like in that outage scenario, most smart devices are going to shut off. Like what happens when your smart home, loses power? I think that the next generation of local first and resilient really has to have power as part of the equation. So it's not just smart, but it's rock solid through kind of any power emergency. One more thing I'll say on the data front, though, is a big battery in your garage can do a lot for backup, and it can even shift energy usage day to day, to save money. But by bringing the battery into the room or next to the critical appliance, like on top of your fridge, you kind of then get this other layer, which is like, wow, now I've got an Apple Watch for my refrigerator. Our battery watches the interior temperature. So it's not just about peace of mind in the power outage, but peace of mind that over time I'm going to know if that expensive appliance is on its way to failure, if I'm leaving money on the table because I've got an old energy hog, or if I left the door open, and I just need to go handle that without having to invest in a smart fridge. It's a beautiful approach that products like Roku have taken over the years to allow us to upgrade the stuff we have really quickly.
How do you deal with I'm trying to think of how I want to now I lost my train of thought there on using this, but I want to talk about just the adoption of this. It's still what's the main, there's the backup situation here, but I want to know again kind of just about that, what data and value. Can we do things in many of the states that do change energy prices during the day? Are you able to essentially turn off your fridges, draw from the outlet, and just draw from the battery when power is more expensive, and then go back to the outlet in the evenings when it's cheaper? Things like that to try to help just save money in general?
You nailed it. Absolutely. And that's the value of having this thing there and ready to go and working for you in the background, is it can do that energy shifting and make it easy for you, right? One-click utility setup, and then suddenly, okay, it's aware that these are the expensive hours, these are the cheap ones. And that spread across the home can have a pretty significant impact on power bills. And by the way, there's folks that are really willing to pay you for using that capacity flexibly on that hot day when the grid is strained and everyone's running their air condition. You can get paid to opt in your devices to a virtual power plant or a demand response program through your utility or through other folks. And what that does is kind of pay down the cost of the device over time. So it's not just a one-time insurance policy type of purchase, but something that's actually saving and maybe even making you money, while also keeping an eye on your, and protecting your most important electrical devices.
I love that. It reminds me a little bit like the Brilliant wall panels, where it kind of does a lot of things, which in some ways makes it a little bit harder to really specifically market, because you think there's so many different kind of angles to it, even if the simple is the battery backup emergency power situation. What about Matter? So literally the part that made me jump out of my seat was that it did have Matter listed there, that you guys were looking at adding Matter to your Pila energy boxes. What is the plan there? How is Matter going to integrate? What's your timeline? What's it going to be able to do? Talk about the Matter stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll say foundationally, the Matter thesis resonates really strongly with how we're building, which is this is a resilience product, which means local first compute and communication is foundational. And with that, we want to bring even more kind of local interoperability with other home systems to the table. So Matter, Home Assistant, we're building a fairly open platform here. And this gets back to your earlier question of like, what's the convergence between smart home and energy? The leading players are pretty walled garden today, in the home battery camp. And we see an opportunity to, give people that data, control, power, allow them to set up their routines and the rest. And Matter is a great tool to do that. If I can go even further and highlight some cool aspects of the technology, in addition to the Matter kind of, communication stack, we've had to solve the hard problem of how do all of these batteries across your home work together and communicate. Because remember, if you've got a big garage battery system, you've got a technician that's hardwiring these things together with Ethernet patch cables or whatever to kind of make it work like one big system. For us, we're not asking people to wire stuff, so there's got to be a wireless type solution. And we've built what we think is a pretty incredible self-healing, coordinatorless mesh network that gets all of our devices, across a home or a business working together to do that energy balancing in real time. So there's a tremendous amount of capability baked into the hardware, and attaching it to Home Assistant platforms, to bringing in the Matter part of the story. It just makes a ton of sense.
Have you considered adding like thread support to your boxes? Because one, in the case of a power outage, first off, in general, there's use cases there because they are extending and making, acting as thread border routers as they are always plugged in. They can be at least routers, not necessarily border routers, but routers to expand that thread network, make it more robust around the home. And in the case of a power outage, for the devices that are still plugged into the Pila Energy, you are maintaining that thread network and continuing it, allowing for that local connection. So if I don't have as many devices, but I still have like these energy boxes, the stuff that's plugged in, new iPads have thread, can make that communication really easy and smooth. And especially as you're looking at Matter or Home Assistant, thread seems like it would be really helpful to have in there.
Yeah, absolutely. And our comms stack, is modern Wi-Fi, Bluetooth. We're actually cellular backed as well. Another benefit of being a kind of resilience first product. If the tree line severs your power lines, it might cut your ISP, your internet coming in too, and we can't have that. To deliver you the notification, that your power went out. We'll work fine without the cloud, but it's about getting you that information. And then in addition to that, we have multi-protocol, multi-band, sub-gigahertz, 2.4 gigahertz, configurable kind of wireless MCU that does include 802.15.4 capabilities. We've not announced any kind of thread-specific functionality, but we have talked quite a bit about it, and the capabilities are there for us to build on. And I think it's really about like what can we deliver? How can we improve that ecosystem of thread devices in your home, supplement what's going on the Wi-Fi side, maybe even leverage the fact that we have this sub-gigahertz functionality that allows us to punch through kind of further, to create this backbone network of our own.
Nice, very cool. What is Matter has a kind of finalized their power energy stuff. What's it look like on your end on actually integrating Matter into the boxes themselves?
Yeah, we're early in building that, and we've actually started with the kind of Home Assistant MQTT options out of the gate because we've heard from our early customers that's what they're most excited about. And I don't know if that's a commentary on the energy nerd type folks like myself who just tend to love Home Assistant or what. But very, very excited to kind of announce more on the Matter front over the next year as we start scaling up. But devices ready for it, and we're pretty responsive to what we hear from our customers in terms of prioritizing these things. So, if that is indeed the next big use case, our team's ready and here to make it happen.
I'm very excited about it. Like, I know, I mean, not even Apple technically has support for, even though they support Matter, they don't have, the power capability stuff built into the Home app yet. But as Apple's getting closer with its smart display, like, I just love the idea of being able to see some of the stuff into that dashboard, monitor energy usage of those things through the Home app as like a central hub, as well as any other Matter enabled app for some of that monitoring and background stuff, which I think does add value instead of just the battery backup situation. So it seems really cool. And I'm already getting curious. I'm like, oh, can we do things about like, leaving the door open? Can that show still through Matter as a different type of, response or contact sensor, essentially things like that? So many things that you could do
Yeah,
that with.
absolutely. And I think that's the honest sort of story with Matter and energy right now is there are some really good foundational pieces that have been built, like state of charge of the battery and, is it charging, is it discharging? And, kind of advancing this as new product categories like ours emerge, advancing this to like, well, what are those other kind of signals and alerts and, pieces that folks are going to want to tie in and how do we bake those into the spec over time? But having alternatives to allow us to get started, like super performant MQTT and Home Assistant integrations out of the gate, allows us to be pretty nimble and prove out some of those things. And I think the value of Matter in my mind is the standardization of it, so that there are these kind of predefined verticals for types of products. But for ours, which is a little bit energy, and also every outlet is monitored and controllable independently, like a smart outlet. And we've got temperature sensing for the fridge. There's kind of a whole host of features that are all working together to paint this picture of appliance energy usage and to do that energy automation. And this is, that's the thing that I get most excited about is can we create, these easy to use ecosystems that make taking all of these different kind of sensor inputs and actuators and turn something like, hey, I want to save money, but I don't want my food to spoil, sort of command into a set of ideally locally maintained actions, on a set of hardware that's designed to last and that you can count on over time, that isn't going to brick, with the firmware update. And yeah, if we can do that, if we can make that kind of thing easy, like we'll be off to the races.
Anything you want to add on OTA software updates that won't brick your fridge?
Yeah, well, and I alluded to this earlier, it's really a mindset of building. Like, you want to be able to deliver new features to folks. And sometimes, pushing that OTA update, like we've seen at Tesla and elsewhere, can also prevent you from having to bring a device in for repair or can extend its lifetime. So, that's the good side. The bad side is if it's done irresponsibly, and if customers aren't part of that conversation and you brick something, like that's not acceptable. We actually published a blog on this. If folks are really interested to dig in, we have a set of principles that we've built on around this, so like local first but cloud assisted in our kind of compute and data story. We have app optional UX, so a touch screen on the device. Not everyone wants another app. We get it. Hardware designed for a long time with software that can improve it. This reliable communication network, the standards and interoperability piece that we've talked about a lot with the Matter and Home Assistant. And, that's all kind of culminated in what we call our customer continuity pledge, which is, this stuff's going to work. You buy it, you own it. No matter what happens, the device is going to be set up to continue to operate, in its kind of core feature set by keeping the local compute super capable, by having the connectivity, there without kind of cloud dependence, and just by being transparent about where all of these hook-ins exist in the system.
I love it. This is stuff I get really excited about because it feels very new. It feels fresh. This feels like a smart home battery versus so many that cater really to that outdoor use case. Like even just finding one that actually can act as a UPS is surprisingly difficult. Like a lot of them don't even want to to do that. I'm like, that seems like a perfect round the clock type of thing, and yet they don't want to do that. So this just feels like it's really designed for a modern smart home in many ways, and yeah, I'm excited for it. It looks really cool.
Thank you. We're really excited to be in the pilot stage now, and we'll be ramping up deliveries early next year. And if folks are interested, they can find us at Pila.energy or PilaEnergy.com. We're taking early reservations for folks that are looking to be among the first to experience Pila in their home.
Awesome. Fantastic. I will put links for those in the show notes if anyone is interested in learning a little bit more about it. Cole, anything you want to leave us with?
I think the big picture here is we're in a really exciting time, not only for the home tech, but also for the power grid. We built the very first power grid in the US, and now it's old and being tested more and more with storms. But we've never been more equipped with the right set of distributed smarts and batteries and technology to actually build from the bottom up, rather than waiting for top-down improvements. So we're here to bring that kind of control and energy independence and put it in people's hands who need it the most.
I love it. Thank you so much for joining. Everybody, you guys know what to do. If you're interested in anything we talked about on the episode, they are in the show notes. You watch the video version of this. You can see the Pila device behind Cole in the background over at YouTube, youtube.com/HomeKit Insider. You can give the podcast a 5, 10, 100-star rating on your podcast player of choice. Otherwise, we'll catch everybody in the next episode.